Cynics on Disney podcast contains adult language. Listener discretion is advised. This is the Cynics on Disney podcast, presented by Nightclub33.com.
Welcome into this week's episode of the Cynics on Disney podcast. I'm your host, Bobby, aka the Disney Cynic.
And I'm Amanda, aka the Anti-Cynic.
And joining us again for, I guess, a follow-up to last week's episode, I feel like. Last week was Econ 101, and I think we're doing a little bit of Home Econ 101 today with my cousin, Ashley. So thank you very much for joining us again today. We genuinely appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Of course. Hey, kids with the soundboard over there with the wife and stuff.
Sorry, I keep forgetting.
She's bad at radio. There we go. Yay. Now that's the
I don't hear it, so it's I forget.
Proper instructions. Wonderful. Today,
I will learn eventually.
God, yeah, I hope. One can hope. Today, we are going to visit sort of a resort and try to give it a little bit of a fresh take, something a little bit more positive here today, potentially, because we've stayed here, we've bitched about it before, and now we want to get perhaps a better opinion. So, Ashley, thank you for joining us. You recently came down on a trip, and where did you end up staying this trip?
We ended up staying at Port Orleans French Quarter.
Ooh.
And if you have listened to our show for a while, since, day one especially, you know our recent thoughts on French Quarter.
Which makes me so sad.
Yeah, on a recent show, I had an existential crisis where I was trying to be less cynical about stuff, and yet here I am tempting myself, going with something like French Quarter, and also naming a show Splitsville immediately after taking a little bit of a break. So this is a little bit of a dare for me, I think, but I know it for you as being your favorite of the moderates. Would that be an accurate assessment?
Oh, without a doubt.
Without a doubt. Okay. And what makes it so attractive for you as a potential guest?
In general, the vibes. I love the theming. And I like Riverside too, but I like the theming of French Quarter a lot better.
Okay.
And one of the big selling points for me is the size. I don't like staying at a resort that has a million bus stops. Like, I don't want to be at a location and questioning if I'm going to make that bus or how full is this bus going to get. Like, one bus stop is a huge, huge selling point for me. And I don't think there are any of the other moderates one bus stop.
No. Honestly, I don't consider this to be a one-stop bus thing, because that's generally speaking, I'm familiar with those buses going to Riverside as well.
Not one time.
Not one time.
I think it depends on crowd levels. But before we get too much into this, can I give some history? Because I think that might make a little sense.
Yeah, absolutely you may.
All right. So the idea for a New Orleans style resort came about actually in 1982. The executive vice president of Disney World at the time had proposed this resort, dining, shopping development near what is now Paddlefish over at Disney Springs.
Okay.
And have it kind of themed around that steamboat, which is, that kind of antebellum,
sure, very
Southern kind of flair. And he wanted it to be specifically kind of a New Orleans style. It never happened because the 80s were the 80s.
Yeah.
And in Disney history, that meant high cost because they had just built Epcot. They were, all that happening, lower attendance than they were expecting. And then, of course, the takeover, the hostile takeover that resulted in Eisner's tenure as CEO. All of that happened. The idea for a resort dining shopping development actually is what eventually becomes Boardwalk.
Okay.
So that's kind of where this started for Boardwalk. Then in 98 or then in 88, Caribbean Beach opened. Caribbean Beach is seen, I think, as the first moderate resort for
Oh, no doubt.
Disney World, and it was a success. When they saw how big of a success Caribbean Beach was, they were like, okay, let's do more.
Okay.
And they brought those plans back out for Port Orleans. Port Orleans officially opened May 17th, 1991, just as Disney's Port Orleans Resort. That is what is now the French Quarter. And it does reflect that architecture of French Quarter and New Orleans. I have stayed there with my parents. My dad has gone to New Orleans, talks very highly of his trip to New Orleans when he was younger, and even said that, yes, the architecture is spot on New Orleans, French Quarter. So there you go. It was pretty small when it first opened. It only opened with 432 guest rooms. It later did expand to 1,008. Random number there, but 1,008.
I'm not making it even thousand. I'm just saying, like, I don't know.
You know, or 1,010. I don't know, 1,008. But yeah, when it first opened, it was really small. It is linked to Disney Springs via the Sassagoula River. And if you are wondering where the name Sassagoula came from, any guesses on that?
No.
I need to look up the chart, but it is a Native American word for Mississippi.
Oh.
So this is kind of the Mississippi River, which New Orleans is is on. So makes sense. And finally, in 2001, Port Orleans and Dixie Landings merged. There's like no hints that Riverside was ever called Dixie Landings. No official reason was ever announced for the merger, but there's assumptions. There's assumptions made. But yeah, so that's why now you have Port Orleans Riverside, which was what was Dixie Landings, and Port Orleans French Quarter.
Okay.
So there you go.
Well,
that's as quick as I could do that.
Appreciate it, Amanda. Now let's start to get to the nitty gritty of it. Obviously, we had a rough time with it. So we're going to set it aside now and say, what type of accommodation did you guys have? Just a standard room? Did it have a view? King bed?
Backstory. We originally booked with at Riverside with the holiday deal, the fall discount. And then I don't even remember what view we had booked, but we ended up moving to French Quarter, and because I wanted to move to French Quarter, but then we also moved to the AP discount, which was a better deal. Ended up being cheaper than Riverside on the other discount, but we were forced into a Riverview to get the AP discount, which I hadn't stayed in a Riverview there before. We had always done like the garden view or whatever, but we ended up getting a corner room. Which was super nice. I didn't request that at all.
Yeah.
Really.
Those corner rooms, I have to say, are great.
Yeah. So I had prioritized, like, we were planning on getting into Orlando early. So I just said, like, prioritize the room being ready when we get there. And we happened to get a corner room. So we had a view of the river and the pool to our right, which was super cool.
Yeah.
But it was technically a river view room.
Yeah.
All right.
If it looks at a tiny bit of the river, it's a river view.
Yeah. Yeah.
When thinking of the theme choices just for that kind of price point that were available on cash nights and that kind of thing, I contend that something like Animal Kingdom Lodge is not so far away from a Port Orleans cash wise that might not be the better option. Did any of the amenities or anything else really attract you to it over a different option that was available?
I mean, I've just loved French Quarter for a long time.
That's okay.
That
I mean,
like
if you
when
like the
David and
theme,
I
you like the
go,
theme.
yeah. Well, when my husband and I go and we're not with the whole family, I'm looking strictly at moderates.
Okay.
I'm not willing to pay cash for a deluxe when we can do DVC with the family.
That's fair.
It's fair.
I've had success doing like rentals and that kind of
Mhm.
thing, and renting from especially Old Key West and what's it called, Animal Kingdom Lodge. We've gotten
Mhm.
a deal on before, so there's I found that there's ways that you can get that kind of experience still if you want, and not
Mhm.
have to pay the top dollar cash value. But there's something that does distinguish that extra $60 a night to me with Animal Kingdom Lodge, and that's
Mhm.
why I tend to gravitate towards that. Now, from a moderate perspective, I also love Grandestino Tower. Just
Oh.
visually speaking,
And we
way
have an
more.
experience with Grandestino Tower
Okay.
similar to your French Quarter
Well,
experiences. So, you know.
it is totally fair. And it's totally fair. But also, this is way funnier, I think. Although, I don't know. We have comparing horror stories is going to be fun, maybe.
Yeah.
We'll get to that here in just a couple minutes. Okay, so is there anything outside of the theming that draws you there, like in terms of like amenities? Because I'm big on those. I like a damn good pool. I like a damn good restaurant. I don't want to have to go meander too far once I get into the resort. So what's making me stick around at Port Orleans?
Beignets. Is there
That's
anything
it?
Yeah,
else?
the vignette. The
The
vignettes.
beignets.
Okay. What about breakfast and lunch and dinner?
I really enjoy the breakfast. So before baby came along, I would go and I would do a kids meal breakfast. And like
Mhm.
I really enjoyed their Sasagola float works. Is that what it's called?
Okay.
Yeah, the quick service. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I've really enjoyed that. We've had nothing but positive experiences there, both with quality, service. The whole area is very clean.
Okay.
I will say I do like the theming of the Sasagula
Mm-hmm.
Factory Works, or whatever the name of it
Mm-hmm.
is. It is, for those that don't know, it is themed to be like a Mardi Gras float factory. So you've got, like, think about Mardi Gras floats, and yeah, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Was there a particular park that you found it to get a little bit easier to than others? Because if you guys are doing buses mostly for,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the stroller and everything like
Yeah.
that, um, obviously Magic Kingdom is a big one, but like I feel like Epcot is so easy to get to
Mm-hmm.
from there, and Hollywood Studios is the biggest pain to get to with a car right now.
Yeah. Well, we did we did all the parks except for studios.
Okay,
And it was a toss up. I mean, we had no big horror stories or anything going to any of the parks.
okay, and. I should say I don't really care about the internal busing as much, believe it or not.
Mhm.
Especially with like crowd levels, like that's just not going to change. Especially if it's a one bus
Mhm.
stop or whatever. A lot of those end up, whenever we've gone anyway, they end up sharing routes in some ways.
Mhm.
So I get more frustrated by having to go to yacht and beach and swan and dolphin
Yeah.
if I'm going to boardwalk,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and that's happened to me at least enough times that I'm like, ugh.
If crowd levels aren't super high, then I know that's when French Quarter and Riverside, like, the buses will go to both.
Mhm.
I know, though, when y'all were down here, it was Jersey Week. It was the weekend that they were taping the Christmas parade at Magic Kingdom. Like, when we met up with y'all that Friday, like, Disney Springs
Mhm.
was packed.
And it was the
Uh,
first very
yeah,
merry night.
it was the weekend of the first Very Merry parties. Like, yeah, a lot happening while y'all were here. So it was really crowded. So I can see
That's a hell of
why
a time.
they
I
didn't do
mean,
bus.
Mhm.
All the things.
Nope.
Fair enough. So we met at Disney Springs. Did y'all take the boat bus? How did
We
y'all
ended up
get
taking the
over here?
bus.
Bus. Okay. Is
Mainly
the boat?
because where we were going in Disney Springs, the boat wasn't as convenient as the
It's
bus
too
stop.
far.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
really wish they would bring back both docks on.
Yeah.
I
That is
get that
my
they have to do the whole bullshit security theater thing now, but still, it's gotten to the point where we used to do this for like the COVID checks, and now it's just like a metal detector. I feel like there's a way that we can work it out better than it is right now. Somehow, some way to bring that dock back.
yeah. I
Because
don't
that
know.
was a fun but like stop. And there was another one too over by Cirque du Soleil, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they had
Mhm.
3. Mm-hmm.
So even just like getting across Disney Springs was like a little bit of a fun thing in a
Yeah.
way. And now that kind of boat experience, I guess, is now gone. So bummer
Yeah.
there, I guess, too. But well, is there any? Would there have been difficulty riding the or taking the boats with the bus or the stroller rather?
No.
Okay,
When we stayed at Copper Creek over the summer, we didn't have any issue with the boats.
okay. Well, I wasn't sure because I think it was the frenemy boats over at Copper Creek or
Uh-huh.
whatever, which are very different than the friendship boats, which are very different than the pontoons that they take over
Hmm.
to Disney Springs. So I wasn't sure if that
Yeah.
also played a role. I don't remember if there's like a step down or not for some of those, but
No,
whatever.
some of them, like the friendship boats, you don't have to fold the stroller, but then the like tiny boats, you have to fold it.
Okay. Well, I didn't realize that this is kind of minutia and everything. But hey, you know what? We're trying to get into a little bit of positive here, right? So, what's the best part of your trip? When we're just talking about resorts.
In general or
Oh,
French
well, this
Quarter?
past trip actually.
Ooh, best part of the resort. Housekeeping did a really good job this trip. And I know that sounds silly, but like when we came in, they had the happy birthday to Ryan on the screen
Oh.
and they had a little gift for him. And I mean, they always do like a cute little thing with the towels and everything, but like they
Yeah.
had a gift with water bottles, chips, the Mickey Rice Krispies. I feel like they just went
Aw.
a little above and beyond. And like the cast members that we went to get our buttons, these are my favorite celebration buttons I've ever gotten. These cast members were just they were spot on.
It's awesome.
Aw.
Look, I'm actually heartwarmed to hear that to a degree. Okay. Now, my experiences with Disney recently have not been what yours are, and that is my bone to pick with them, but not with yours. So I'm thrilled to hear that for you, especially because this experience should be for you. It
Mhm,
should be for you and Ryan and your husband to truly just like relish in this moment. So I'm really glad that that kind of thing still does happen for like the perfect demographic of it.
mhm.
Sucks that it doesn't work for me. But that's beside the point, right? How were the beds? How were the towels? How were all of the nooks and crannies and everything like that of an actual hotel stay?
It was really good. The only complaint I had, and this is like very specific to my situation and the room that we had, was getting the pack and play where we wanted it. We had to kind of move some furniture around, and like there are places
Okay.
that it could have fit better than where we had it, but again, very specific to us. But we were in building 5 and French Quarter is currently going through a renovation. So they have finished 1 and 2, I know for sure. Not sure about 3, but they were definitely working on 4 when we were there.
Okay.
So we were
Yeah.
not in a newly renovated room, but I will say
I
we didn't
just
hear any of the construction noise at all.
Okay. And
oh,
that's always a concern, I'm sure, with someone like you with a toddler and everything,
Mhm,
where you need to have that nap time.
mhm.
Infant, what
and
am
I
I
just
calling?
saw where
I'm
the
sorry.
pool's about to be closed, so they
What
really are going to undergoing
Mhm.
some
what am I calling
renovations.
your the not adult? I keep
He's
screwing up
technically a
that.
toddler now.
Okay. All right. See, that's what I needed to know. Okay. This was a debate last week. So,
Ah,
I
Yeah,
didn't.
he's no longer a newborn.
no, definitely
He's
not.
still
We're
new to
past
me.
that.
I'm sorry. I've only seen the kid a couple. Anyway.
Still, he's not newly born, so he's not a
Okay,
newborn,
fine. I'm just saying.
I mean, you can still call him the baby.
Okay, I will.
which he is until the next baby comes in January.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to
Then he's the older
that.
baby.
There you go.
I feel bad for him. I know what it's like to be in his position. I do. I relate. Having to be the first of that generation. That is way too inside baseball family talk. So, all right. Look, obviously, I want to give this the credit that you want to give it. Okay. What I need out of a resort is stuff like dining options. And I know that we talked about like the quick service
Hmm.
spot, but is there any sort of sit down or table service, anything like that? Because like the reason why Coronado speaks to me
Hmm.
as I guess Three Bridges stands out like
Hmm.
as a spot to eat.
Yeah.
Is there anything like that over at French Quarter that we need to check out?
No, I mean, there's Scat Cat Lounge, which I haven't gotten to go to the lounge at all. But
Okay,
I'll be honest, it is not the most fun, exciting resort. If we were going on a trip that was like we were taking a resort day and a rest day, French Quarter would probably not be my choice.
okay,
But we typically go there on our trips that are shorter, and we are spending most of the time in the park, and it's literally just a nicer place to sleep.
okay. That's fair.
We were not looking for the amenities like we would be on a longer trip.
That's fair.
Look,
Or like if
sometimes
you were
that's what
doing
you
a
need.
staycation, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
This was just
Um,
like positive vibes, decent price point, got us where we
well,
needed to be.
let's talk price point then. With your discounts and everything like that, do you recall roughly about what the rack rate was?
I want to say 240,
Okay.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
but I
I just
know
looked it
it
up for.
jumped. The weekend was
Yeah.
like $100 more expensive, but our average was
Yeah.
probably around there.
all right,
Looks like right now non-discounted standard room for right now is 354.
that's fair.
And you're
Um,
entering peak season
Yeah.
more
Oh
than a
yeah.
few weeks ago.
all right. So on a scale then of 1 to 5 ports, how many Orleans are you giving French Quarter?
1 to 5 ports. For what I was looking for, a 4. You probably
Okay.
would not rate. I don't see a world where you're gonna rate it a 4 ever. So
I love how well she knows you.
Have I not been fair?
you have
No,
been.
you have.
Hmm.
But what she looks for and what you look for are two very different things.
Okay. Yes, you're absolutely right. I want to presume that if I never had to step foot outside of that resort, that I would have a wonderful time. You know why? Because that's what it felt like every time that we used to go when we were kids. And I don't know why that was. I don't know if it's because we were staying at the treetops when we did one of those shared vacation type
Hmm.
things, or when we bought into DVC kind of all at the same time. We did the one big trip where we did the big grand villa and everything like that. That was such a cool trip for and such a cool memory for me anyway.
Hmm.
And like I don't know why, but like something like, oh, I remember very vividly playing golf with my dad, your dad, and our grandfather, and that was a very cool, informative memory for me because it did lead to later on kind of a love of golf because I got to experience that kind of thing with my
Hmm.
family, like that. So all these little extra amenities, I love,
Hmm.
and that's why I don't rate it as high. I loved staying on the golf course at Key West because we grabbed the clubs out of the car and hit balls when the sun had already started setting. You know,
Hmm.
That's never going to happen in Portland.
Right.
And that's maybe that what I would want out of a bigger trip, especially.
Mhm.
But for perhaps what you were talking about, I understand.
Now, I
But
will say I'm not a pool person in general. Like,
yeah,
if I'm staying at beach club, yeah, I'm going to the pool. But for the
sure,
most part, like that's not my vibe. But I know a lot of people really enjoy the pool. If Ryan were a little older, they do have a playground,
okay,
which I don't recall any of the other moderates having a true playground, but I could be wrong.
okay,
It's been a minute. So I mean, there are some things that's just not what we were going for this trip.
and that's fair. So I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm not even gonna give it an actual star rating because I want this to be somebody else's positive vibe about
Now,
this movie.
something else I
Okay.
will say that this is probably something about me that has changed since having kids, but it's so small that you end up seeing the same people over and over again. Different from a larger moderate or a deluxe for sure. So there was one day that we were sitting on the bus between a family from Jersey, shocker, during that week, and then another family, and both of the kids and the families on either side of us on the bus were around my son's age. And then we ended up seeing them in the food court at breakfast, and they, like, came and said hi to us. "What park are you going to today? Oh, have a great time." And, like, before kids, I would have cringed at the thought of having to see someone on a vacation that wasn't my family more than once. Like, "Oh my god, I don't wanna talk to you." But I think that's something that's different now, like, "Oh, we're bonding over our littles?" And I like that
That's
now. Would not have
that's
Yeah.
liked
cool.
that 5 years ago.
That's cool. I'm glad that you feel that way. I very much so do not.
Yeah.
Do not. Like, it's one thing if you want to come and joke with me, that's fine. We can do
Mhm.
that. Like, if you recognize me, cool. That's cool. But no, absolutely not. Like, just
Yeah.
oh god,
So,
the
those
character
of you
interactions, especially too. Oh, it's the worst.
so those of you who watch us, if you are in the parks or at a resort and you see us, go say hi to Bobby. Just go up and say hi.
Yeah, it'll be fine. I'll give you a hug or something. It'll
It
be
won't
funny.
be awkward at all.
Oh,
Now, I do have a question outside of the resort. This was your first trip with Ryan without the big
Mhm.
family.
Mhm.
All right. And he's a little bit older than he
Yeah.
was.
Uh-huh.
And while it may not seem between May and November, I mean, that in baby time, that's a lot.
We're mobile. We are
Very,
mobile.
very mobile this time around.
Yes.
Very, very wiggly.
Oh my god.
as
Yeah.
I experienced firsthand.
Yeah.
Um and loved every second of
Oh
it.
my gosh.
I'm not even gonna lie. I loved every second of it. But how was it this time without that bigger family with you?
So, I think I've told Bobby this for months now. I have such low expectations for this trip. This was literally, like, I just wanted to get my feet wet going on a vacation, me, husband, and baby.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't have a whole lot that I was like, "I really want to accomplish this." And I think that made it a lot easier. Also, knowing that this wasn't, like, our big family trip made it so I wasn't, like it wasn't, "Okay, we have to ride this ride or we're all
right.
gonna be disappointed?"
Would you say that that lower pressure and lower expectations made uh traveling like getting to and fro places a little bit
Mhm.
easier? And the reason why I stress this is um when you guys do you in particular are
Mhm.
like drop queen. You are the Nazi leader of the platoon that drives us all to
Don't
like a
love that
schedule.
term, but
Okay, that's
sure.
fair.
Yeah, can we like
Yeah, we can bleep it or something. Uh
or find a totally different
yeah.
term?
We're gonna go with a very strong drill sergeant
I'm the
of a
coordinator.
wedding planner, bridezilla wedding planner, of a I that's how I would describe you, but that's because I'm such a low knot
I'm
planner
nice
that
about it.
anybody that has a spreadsheet is just way above me.
I love a
Now, he
spreadsheet.
says that but then he gets super excited about making spreadsheets for work.
It's because I'm making money with them, and that's why.
I love a spreadsheet and color coding and
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
no,
It
the
is
I
the
had to
most
show
planning
my
of a
adult
mind a
thing.
Disney trip
spreadsheet.
is part of the joy for me.
It is
Without a
one of
doubt.
the most adult things about me. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying though that like because I know you to be more of like the strict schedule type person,
Mhm.
I would think that traveling with now a toddler would mean that you have to be less respectful of said schedule.
Oh yeah.
Would it not?
Yeah. And I didn't try to rope drop one time.
You don't
Yeah,
dictate the
girl.
schedule now.
No. No.
You do not. Riot
Not at
dictates
all.
the schedule now.
Not at all.
Riot has control.
No, it was definitely like I went into it knowing I'm not in control of the schedule, but I think being an annual pass holder and going as often as we do, and like we've already got our next year's family trip planned, I'm not going into it like I need to go ride this, 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 and this, otherwise I'm going to miss it. This was literally just I want to go enjoy Disney.
Yeah.
Sometimes those are the best trips though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, it was
And-
the most relaxed trip I've had in a very long time.
And honestly, that's probably great to hear because like if for no other reason, I know this firsthand that just the stress of Disney can really get to you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's really led to
Yeah.
a lot of negativity on this show because it does feel like it builds and builds and builds. When you get that break,
Mm-hmm.
like it makes you miss it a little bit more, and that's kind of what we've had to kind of remember
Mm-hmm.
is that we do need that break from
Mm-hmm.
it a little bit. And perhaps too, this type of vacation is also a break in and of itself, especially for you who like the last few trips you've either first time with the kid, first time pregnant, and or second time pregnant too.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, like that in and of itself had to be stressful because then you don't know which rides half the time you can ride.
Right.
So at least this time it's a little bit different. Was there anything new that Ryan could ride now on this trip that he couldn't before?
Not necessarily because I mean he hasn't hit the minimum height requirement. He's still only riding like any height.
Fair
But
enough.
we did do different things. I wouldn't say we necessarily did more things. We did do multi-pass 2 of our park days.
Which days did you? Which parks did you use before?
We did it in Magic. Yeah, we did it our first full day in Magic, and then we did it in Animal Kingdom. And I don't necessarily advise getting multi-pass for Animal Kingdom because it's not necessary, like absolutely not necessary. But we were no. But we were planning on hopping to Epcot that night. So financially, it probably would have made more sense for me to just buy multi-pass for Epcot and plan for that in the evening. But I was like, I feel silly not utilizing it at all in the first park. So we wouldn't have done it if we were going to be in Animal Kingdom and weren't hopping to Epcot. Definitely wouldn't have gotten it that day.
Is there because there was no rider swap, so to speak? Did you and David go on anything like Kilimanjaro or even any of the other kind of thrill rides that are out there by yourselves, and then
Well, Ryan rode Kilimanjaro.
Or excuse me, my apologies.
Oh.
I was thinking of the Yeti.
Everest.
No, because we had decided, we go so often with the family that this was more our trip about the 3 of us. There was nothing that we cared enough about doing rider swap for.
Cool.
So that was an intentional choice we had made before.
All right. Well, was there any firsts that Ryan did on this trip that you were kind of looking forward to? Because let's be real, we're talking about the woman who got got the first haircut down here.
We did get the first haircut,
and made People Mover the first attraction that child rode. So Was there any first this time around that you can share with the audience?
Ooh, there were a couple of firsts this time around. We did the new Country Bears, which
Oh,
he actually
Oh,
liked, which we
that's
weren't
okay.
sure
disappointing. I don't
how
like
he was.
his views on music so far, but we'll get to that.
Let's see.
We got to get him out of Georgia more often. That's all. Yeah.
We did Kilimanjaro, and he liked that. I think he would have enjoyed that more at a different time of day because he was about to fall asleep.
Oh,
What time of day did y'all go?
I think that one was at like 9 something.
Oh, so it was in
it's
the morning.
around.
What? Did you say it was boring?
No, was it in
No,
the morning?
Oh, yes, in the morning.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was just
So
sleepy.
were the animals active enough and catching his
Oh,
attention,
yeah.
or okay?
Yeah, it was literally just he was about to fall asleep.
What are his thoughts on something like Finding Nemo?
We have not done Finding Nemo with him yet. I
What?
know.
Neither
I
the show
hesitate
nor
to do.
the clamshell.
Oh, no, that one we did. The
Okay,
Seas with Nemo. Sorry, we haven't done
the show.
with the show, yeah.
that's okay. Don't subject yourself to that if you don't have to. He's not old enough to know what's going on with it anyway. So
Yeah. And I
uh,
hesitate to do like long stage shows with him because you just don't know. You
Yeah.
don't know if he's gonna make it.
although I got to be honest with you, Ash, I think the folks in there are a little bit more accepting
Oh yeah, for
of
sure.
that kind of thing. They're
Hmm.
all in there for the same reason, to
Right.
sit down and relax, get some air conditioning, take a break, and
Hmm.
just let them watch the puppets.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, there's going to be the handful of people who are obsessed with Finding Nemo that are just adoring it. But come on, come on,
Hmm.
we all know what that's for. So
Yeah.
don't overshort yourself on that kind of thing,
Well,
unless it's Disney Junior. Stay away from that.
He's going to get to an age here soon where they'd have to do the Disney
That's
Junior
true.
stuff.
I'm hoping that Disney will close this Junior thing by the time that happens. So hopefully that you never
I
have to
mean,
experience that. Hopefully
you
we
know what?
never
He
have to
doesn't
experience
have
that
to
either.
know that it's there. So
Yeah, that's but we do. Unfortunately, I know all too vividly of these characters' existence. So
oh my
I
we
kind
won't
of
get into
control his knowledge base right now, though. So
it. That's fair. Keep it clean. Keep it clean. Keep it away from Disney Junior.
God.
Um. All right. So, what was the most difficult part about not having that support structure?
when you're dealing with figuring out what a nonverbal child yet needs, that part is hard. And
Okay.
when you're trying to like troubleshoot, like, why is he upset right now? You've only got the one person to talk to. And so David and I had to say to each other quite often, we're on the same team. We're on the same team. And like, if both of us were feeling stressed out, which really didn't happen much this trip, like,
That's good.
Ryan was fantastic
That's
95% of the time. But not having multiple people to hand him off to, it more tests you and the other person, you and the other adult.
yeah. You can see
Yeah.
that. Plus, like having all the family around and everything that's got to be a lot of like stimulation for him
Hmm.
that like can really distract him from getting
Yeah.
too cranky.
Hmm.
So I get it, but that's also what the parks are kind of for,
Hmm.
right?
Also,
So
babies need a lot of stuff.
yeah, they
Like,
do.
literally a lot of stuff. So there's just fewer hands to deal with all of the things.
Yeah.
But we kind of had our system of like, who's going to hold what when we get on the bus and we have to fold the stroller and all of that. Like, we got it down to a science, but it is complicated.
Well, speaking of, then what's your biggest mom hack then, Mom?
Oh
Yeah.
my.
That's a good question.
Okay. So I showed you guys this when we were at Disney Springs, but the Tush Baby, which is just like this adult fanny pack. And It looks ridiculous, but it's got a seat that Ryan can sit on. And
Look, that seemed like it was such a help for you.
it looks so dumb. And before I was a mom, I was like, why is that necessary? Just hold the baby on your hip. No, the thing was amazing. My back didn't hurt after carrying Ryan around, but it was also nice because it gave him a seat on the bus. It also had a water bottle holder. It held like all of my stuff that I would need to have on me, like my wallet, keys, anything like that. I had on me.
Okay.
But that thing was amazing.
There you go. Just give up. Just stop trying to look cool if you've got kids, and just give in to the comfort. It's okay. We're
It
not
was
here to judge.
so nice.
I've been saying this for years about dry fit clothes and dressing for comfort, not for not for style and all that stuff. And yes, you can get a little bit more stylish these days with like the dry fit and Under Armour and all that shit. But like, no, it's got to be like comfortable at this point. It's
Yep.
too hot down here for the most part until to this week when it's too cold.
Yeah, tomorrow is gonna be. I'm not happy.
Well,
Yeah.
let's talk. Let's get into a little bit of news here. Amanda, you are more of the weather hawk these days than I am.
Yeah.
Would you say that we are in the midst of hurricane? What's her name?
Nope. That hurricane slash. I don't think it ever became a hurricane.
I think it did. I think this cold.
Yeah. I think briefly it did, and then it hit like Honduras, and Honduras killed it. Killed it dead.
Thank you, Honduras. We appreciate your effort.
We got a little bit of rain tonight. I noticed before, like when I went to take Cooper on his walk, it had rained before that.
Oh, okay. So we did finally get
but
that.
We got a little bit. But tomorrow, now we're getting a cold front. We've been in like the high 70s, like low 80s here. And that is about to change because tomorrow our high is 68. That's our high.
Wow.
That's as high as it's going to get. It's not going to get warmer.
That's terrifying to someone who lives here locally.
Do you want to know the low? Do you want to know what the low is for tomorrow? It's 49.
That's our high tomorrow.
I
don't like this. One of my favorite stories to tell about my family trips. It was me and my parents. We came down for like we got here the day after Christmas in 2007, and we were staying over New Year's. So we celebrated New Year's Eve. I will never do that again at Disney. No, never.
Nope.
But I, even though it's Florida, when I was packing, still told myself, hey, it is still December. So I'm going to pack a couple of hoodies and a scarf because it's still December. My mother just went, it's Florida. I'm not packing anything warm. She ended up having to steal one of my hoodies. And because when we got here the day after Christmas, it was beautiful. It was like in the 70s, just gorgeous weather, bright, sunny, beautiful, typical Florida weather. January 1st, and I have a picture of me. January 1st, 2008. We are at Magic Kingdom. We rope dropped. I don't know why we rope dropped, but we rope dropped. I am standing there in front of Magic Kingdom. I've got a hoodie on. I have my hood up. I've got a scarf. All you see are my eyes. I'm wearing jeans because it was literally 32 degrees.
That sounds
in Florida.
Miserable.
It was horrible.
So
it does get cold.
At least two or three jackets and hoodies at Disney because I was not prepared.
Oh yeah, my mom just stole mine, but
And look, I'm sure that the two of you have used that as an excuse to buy a new hoodie.
I'm not upset about it.
I don't know what you're talking about. Why is that a bad thing?
Oh, am I spilling the secrets there? Oh, I'm sorry. God forbid that y'all be revealed like this every now and then.
I mean, I don't see the problem with this, but
I'll own it.
Well, at least he did that. Okay. So Ashley, I I have been picking a bone with Disney here of late, particularly when it comes to certain value items and everything like that.
Mhm.
On your recent trip, um, would you say that you had felt like you had gotten the most out of your money this time around?
I think so. I mean, I think having an annual pass and already having done a week trip,
Okay.
this I knew I was getting my money's worth out of the ticket. Lightning Lane, probably, like, if you're figuring out mathematically how much I paid versus how many rides I got out of it, probably not. But I wasn't trying to maximize that this
That's
trip.
fair.
I was trying to save myself some time in line with a toddler.
Okay.
That's fair.
So,
Did
I
you
mean,
have
That's
like,
fair.
to
that was truly I was just trying to save the time even though it's fewer rides.
So the reason why I'm bringing all of this up is because there's another kind of issue that's starting to become more and more prevalent, although less and less so for me, thank God. It's that there's less and less accessibility
Mhm,
for certain folks. Okay, and
mhm,
I don't. I want to talk about this in two different ways. I want to talk about the DAS situation and the
mhm,
difficulties that those folks have been going through.
yeah,
I also want to kind of point out some of the larger folk accessibility
mhm,
of some of the attractions. Now, to very briefly cover the DAS situation, um, this does affect me to a degree because I've got family who have used that in the past.
mhm,
um I think though that why I'm a little bit growing concerned uh is because I feel like that's kind of disincentivizing people to go to
mhm,
the parks. And I wanted to get your perspective because you are someone who comes here very differently than we do,
mhm,
because even though you are an annual pass holder, you are a cash guest at times customer as well, and that's a
mhm.
more coveted one than Amanda and I. So do you feel like the your experiences here with your trips are a little bit more catered to than some of the complaints that we have kind of resonated here on this channel?
Probably. I mean,
Okay.
we haven't used I think we've used DAS one trip for a family friend that came with
Okay.
us. Um, so I hear the complaints, but I can't necessarily relate to it because I
Mhm.
haven't had to deal with that regularly,
That's fair.
and it doesn't affect me going.
Again, fair. I wasn't trying to like make you judge
No, no, no.
them, so to speak. I just wanted to kind of point out that there's noise with that kind
Mhm,
of thing.
mhm,
And because we experienced both the noise and we see the frustrations more often, I
mhm.
hear it more often.
Yeah.
You are a very different type of Disney fan, and I respect you for it. And that's why I want to at least give it a little bit of a voice for a minute, because God, I feel like last week, especially Amanda, you can back this up. I got dark at times. I did,
I ended
getting
up
into some
tuning
of
it
the
out.
numbers. And what's funny is too, I like listen back to it. I usually do that just to kind of make sure that everything went fine with the audio and stuff. And yeah, I felt myself like getting viscerally more angry, and I just did not want to have
Mhm.
that type of show. But
Yeah.
so I wanted to get the good vibe
Yeah.
for from someone who has certainly enjoyed things a lot more recently, and I think with a
Mhm.
lot more reason to, with having a
Yeah.
new baby. To Can I do new baby?
Sure, but he's not new anymore.
I mean, all right, yeah. But when it comes, I'm getting weird with this Samantha
With a
stuff.
child. How about you just say that? With a child.
Well, so there's a difference between a child and a baby to me. I don't
Okay,
know.
just say with a baby.
Fine, with a baby. Would you say that those expectations are being met then? Like just with the character meets, with all of the other little
Mhm.
things that you've kind of grown to hope for over the years.
Yeah. I would say,
That's all.
like, with what I'm going for, it's meeting my expectations. But I also think that I know that I'm very privileged to get to go to Disney as often as I do. But I think I'm kind of in that sweet spot that I'm not a local and I'm not going there all the time for the magic to kind of fade. But I'm
Yeah.
also going and not trying to do everything all in one trip, get my money's worth out of every second. It alters my perspective going into it. So yeah, in that way Disney is doing what I'm hoping for, but I totally understand other perspectives and how it can be super frustrating
Well,
for
think
somebody
for
that's
me.
only getting to go once in 10 years or once in a
Well,
lifetime.
Yeah.
I do want to do one thing here finally to cap this whole experience off, because it's been way too positive on this here show, and I want to give you the floor and the space to describe your Coronado Springs incident
Oh
that
my.
I know and love.
So we were there, gosh, this was pre-pandemic. Like the tower had just opened up, right? When did the tower open?
2018, 2019, something like
Somewhere in
Okay.
that.
there, yeah.
Yeah. So we were there at one point, and then my husband, the bathroom in the room that we were staying in, is one of those barn door bathrooms. Bless it. And my husband, he went to go take a shower, and thank God he didn't completely close the door, but he had like maybe 6 inches that it was left open, and the barn door got knocked off of the track. So he couldn't open the door. And so he's like yelling for me to come help him out. I'm 4'11". I can't, like, I'm strong, but I can't get this door up on the track by myself. So thank God the door is open enough for me to pass him some clothes. And I had to call the front desk for them to come break my husband out of the bathroom.
Look, every time, ever since you told us that story, every time we go anywhere and there's a barn door, we
No,
point it out to each
Yep.
other.
we will
We're
never
like,
have a
barn
barn
door.
door. We will
And
never have a barn door.
yeah, I'm really glad that decor is fading as a choice. I
Yeah.
hope that it dies a quick death, along with just the phrase. I don't mind the style, but the phrase "open concept." It needs to go. It really does. Um, so, all right. Well, I understand why you wouldn't like Coronado as much as we do necessarily, although our experience definitely was much better because we did not lock ourselves in the
Yeah.
bathroom. So
Our,
Yeah.
our barn door did not come off the track.
Now, I
so
will say, sorry to bring back positivity or whatever, but the cast members were really great about it. We got 3 fast passes at the time. So they were really nice, and they came quickly.
that's okay though. I
I
mean,
think when you say, "Hey, my husband's trapped in the bathroom because the door came off the track."
before the pandemic, we had the same experience that we had over at Port Orleans the very same day. We had one of the best experiences that we've ever had
At
over
Old
at
Key
Old Key
West.
West. So, absolutely, these things can happen.
Mhm.
And God, I'm telling you, Ash, I know you probably just didn't like stick around and everything like that and watch the whole show because God, I got stuck in numbers and it was gross for a lot of people, I'm sure. But
I so tuned it out.
I needed to I needed to say that this is all worth it in some way, shape, or form. So thank you very much for joining us. We
You're so welcome.
genuinely appreciate it. I do want to bring you back whenever you want to talk Disney. So, whether it's you're in the midst of planning and you want to just vent, please come on. We want to hear that kind of stuff because
Mhm.
we're not going through it. We're not planning the 7 month or 11 month booking windows or anything like
Mhm.
that. So that's something that we don't get to share or any experience with. And you know what? I think people should get that one too.
In a
That
few months, I
perspective.
can give you some Disneyland content.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, California. Ew,
Yeah.
gross. So, do you want to promote anything? I don't know. You don't. I don't think you have your own thing yet.
No, I'm not a promoter.
Just wait.
No.
Just wait.
I
It's
know.
coming. You'll get. I know. It's gonna happen. Okay. Well, thank you very much then for joining us, Amanda. We're on social media, are we not?
Kind of, sort of, but yes. Do I update? No. Do we have accounts? Yes.
Worst fucking millennials, I swear. Okay. Where can we be found? God forbid that we tweet.
You can kind of find us on Facebook and that site formerly known as Twitter at Cynical Disney. Everywhere else, so that is Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Pinterest. I think I covered everything. At Cynics on Disney.
And of course, this show is brought to you by NotClub33.com. Make sure that you go to NotClub33.com for all the latest and greatest updates, including but not limited to the Notcast released pretty much every Friday at 4 p.m. Magic Kingdom time. That is East Coast time for all of you California folk and potentially my cousin as well, apparently. So I'm not sure that I appreciate that. But we'll bring you back for that, I suppose, because I do want to know what your perspective is. I keep hearing that it's a tiny castle. I mean, really, ours is bigger. So, it's a very Florida attitude to have. I know, but still. What?
He acts like I'm not going to drag him out there one day. Like,
I don't want to go. Ew. She'll trick me into it. But what? I'm sorry. Anyway, let's not get into it. Not tonight. Please make sure that you are subscribed to the channel and that you are subscribing back to us when we get the audio feed back up and running. Make sure that you are commenting and liking and sharing, and because it helps us out. It exposes us to more listeners. And again, I stress this every week. Even though I am, in fact, getting better looking by losing weight, you do not want me exposing myself to our listeners in any other way. I already sell air conditioning for a living. I don't need to get into fans. So,
oh my
God. What?
Just wrap it up. Just wrap it up.
All right. Until next week, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Have yourselves a magical fucking day.